Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I am one of your hosts, JT Matthews at JTMatthews01 on Twitter, and I am here with the Dr. Nicholas Manning at Dr_N Manning on Twitter as well. We're calling it Twitter now, right? X is just gone. People
I'll never say it. I'll never say it. I don't you're not that cool. Madonna, Prince, MJ. That's it.
That's it.
You don't get to just name yourself.
Yeah. They don't get to just rebrand everything.
Yeah. Especially when it's not better.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
Certainly not better. Well, we are here. It is the day before the draft. Lots of sports stuff going on in this town. Some good, some bad. Mostly good, though.
Huh.
But before we get into that, how you doing, Doc?
I'm doing well. Smashing a protein bar right now.
Crush it.
I got some fitness goals. I've been slaying, so too pumped about that. So I apologize for all of you watching me eat, but I got to stay on schedule. Appreciate the grind, How about you?
Yeah, you gotta keep it up. So I probably should have waited till you're done chewing. That's my bad.
Man, let the people see the realness.
I'm good. I'm having some issues with Wi-Fi, so I'm on my phone today. So if you see me touching the screen and stuff, it's because I'm looking at stuff for the show that I usually have off screen.
You're not that old. That's now how do you turn this thing on?
Yeah. If you see my camera flip around and you're looking at the wall at some point, because I'm closer to 40 now, so it may happen. Besides that, though, I'm doing great.
Yep. So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into some sports talk. The bulk of this program is going to, as Pat McAfee would say, the program is going to be about the Broncos and the NFL draft. However, we are going to kick off with a little bit of Nugs and Avalanche talk. It is the playoffs. We're in the midst of the playoffs. And Tim, what's up, Tim? Sorry, Tim interrupted me. But in the midst of the playoffs, we've got lots of stuff to talk about. And let's just start out with, you want to start with that one? We can start with that one.
I sure do.
Okay, let's start with the Denver Nuggets. I've got my misspelled champions hat. It's still good though. It's still great.
Yeah.
Actually, I like it better this way.
Champagnes too. Everyone loves Champagnes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Tale of two halves, storylines on storylines, and in the end, a familiar result.
Yep. Let's start with that first half. The first half was not great. It didn't feel great. We were down by 15 at the half. When I say we, I mean me and the Denver Nuggets, clearly.
Yeah. My heart was right next to, there's them when they're sitting on the bench at timeout, and then I'm metaphorically in the chair next to the 12th guy, and actually before the call-up guys, so the guys that are good at basketball but not good enough to be suited up, but I'm before them. I've been a fan longer than they've been alive.
Right, for sure. It was one of those games where I was like, am I going to turn this on after halftime or not? But because they are the Denver Nuggets and no lead is safe, I decided I would stick it out. Though it did get worse before it got better.
Yes,
I think we went down by 20 at one point in the third.
Yeah, 68-48.
Yeah, and it was not feeling good. D'Angelo Russell was having a good shooting day. LeBron looked like prime LeBron for the most part.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis looked like one of the best centers in the league.
Yep.
Offensively, especially. And the Nuggets just weren't responding, but their fortunes turned. Oh, and Jamal Murray was 3 for 16 or something.
Yeah.
So that was rough.
Essentially, it was everything that we had talked about that the Lakers needed to do was happening. And then I was thinking about texting you and be like, we messed up.
Yeah.
They didn't know the formula to win. And then we put it out there.
We told them.
They're watching us and they're like, oh, snap. Why did we not think of this before? And then they did it. I was like, that's just, it's unacceptable.
It's one of those things too, like where I'm thinking about these adjustments in game as the Nuggets are coming back. The Nuggets made one adjustment. They hadn't made an adjustment against the Lakers in a long time. I don't think they made really any adjustment.
Yeah. Why would you adjust winning? You know,
right?
Like,
but they got down and they had to make an adjustment. They put Aaron Gordon on Anthony Davis and put Jokic on Rui, kind of floating around off the block and dipping into the corner when he needed to. And that seemed to be all it took for them to kind of regain some momentum.
Yeah.
There were some big shots that were made. KCP finally got going after missing a lot of shots. I didn't even know KCP could dunk like he did, but he had a monster dunk. I was like not expecting that. I haven't watched
Prince
it
just
again.
caught it to the face.
Oh
Didn't
my
he get
god!
dunked on last year with Minnesota when they played the Nuggets in the first round?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think he got yammed on too. I think he's just like seeing Nuggets sacks, just like just to the face.
It was a reminder too that like, and we had talked about it off air, but KCP has been aggressive in his offensive game lately.
Yeah.
He hasn't been afraid to shoot. You know, sometimes he's a little passive in the offensive game, at least historically with this team. And there's no real need for him to be super hyper aggressive with this roster.
Right.
But they all kind of feel the freedom of playing with Jokic. And if you have an opportunity and a good high percentage shot, or you're feeling it in the moment, they're going to let it fly. And, you know, KCP in the first game had a stretch of threes that really pushed out the lead for Denver. And then, you know, had some nice plays in this one to keep them in it defensively and scoring on the other end. So I think, honestly, he may be a little bit of my MVP. Obviously, you know, we'll get to the Jamal Murray of it all. But, you know, he's been kind of an unsung hero in all of this.
I mean, I think what Aaron Gordon did was, I mean, there's a lot, right? Like it's just the storylines. MPJ was phenomenal from start to finish. Guy played the entire 48 minutes or whatever, right? So he didn't take any time off that we've seen him accustomedly do, right? He'll have like a big quarter or two where his numbers look pretty good at the end of the game, but really he wasn't that effective for the entire game. This one, especially with the other guys struggling, remained consistent, wasn't taking bad shots, was active on the glass. There's a sense of teamwork. So if you've worked in teams at your job, you played sports, maybe your family unit, right? Really function like high functioning, winning organizations, teams. There's a connectivity piece, right? They can anticipate what the next person's doing or what they'll need to do. And then there's trust that will be reciprocated back.
Right.
It's not just like, I know where he's going to go on this play and I'll put the ball in the corner, but the other guy trusts that ball is going to get to the corner, right? So we're not hesitating. We're getting into our spots because we not only know what to do, but we trust that the other person will be where they're supposed to be or do what they're supposed to do. So we can play assignment basketball.
Right.
And so I think that led to the lack of panic, right? This team just, down 15. And, you know, they're not too low. You don't see guys yelling at each other, right? No one's throwing water bottles on this. I would have been pissed.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like someone's getting yelled at.
I was.
Right. I know. I mean, ask the guy that got punched by the Jokic brothers.
Yeah.
Like, someone's about to catch them. So the fact that they didn't shows like they believe as long as there's zero, you know, as long as there isn't zeros on the clock, that ball's bouncing. If we play our game, we're going to win. We don't have to do anything other than playing our game. I think Michael Malone probably made some adjustments to give Jamal Murray some easier looks towards the latter part of the game. But really, defensive matchup. Aaron Gordon is just how can you not sing his praises for a guy that was an all-star, 25 plus a game scorer, was the man in Orlando, and he gladly is accepting his role as a guy that hustles and plays D. Yep. You know, like I don't know many guys that be able to do that. And then to go to KCP, who probably could be high teens, you know, scorer, could be a good third option for some teams. It's fine being the fifth option and sometimes the sixth option.
Yep.
You know, where he's like, and he knows if I just do my job, I'm going to get 12 to 15. You know, like if I just do my, like you said, I'm just the trust within this group, I think just it's hard to quantify about how good they are. And then, Jokic has a phenomenal game, but even for all of us, it was like, I mean, he played good, like Jokic good. Everyone else is excellent, but Jokic good. I think the thing that I noticed from him that is so tremendous was he's still feeding the ball to Jamal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Having a rough time. And Jokic, instead of being like, all right, I got it, like I'll take over. I can back down at will. There was no one guarding him in the post. Like he's having a field day, but he knows that if I keep the other guys involved when it gets crunch time, that's how we pull away from this thing, right? Like they could take me out of it, double teams, all that good stuff. I need to get my guys in rhythm while we still have some time. Just that like foresight is from a superstar, right? From a two-time, should have been 3 times MVP, finals MVP. Like, holy crap. It's so special to watch this group play. I feel like right now we're saying it each week, but each week they're just adding another chapter to the like, see, that's why. See, that's why. See, yep. That's why. It's phenomenal. It's great. And I do want to get to Big E's. All right. So first half, abysmal. Really the only ones that were effective was Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic. Third quarter, they hit a stretch of being down 20. I think it was like with 9 minutes left in the third. And then they just went and got buckets.
Mm-hmm.
Like good sets, high percentage shots. Didn't give a lot of offensive opportunities on the glass for LA. And then, let's talk about how we get through the fourth quarter, right? Just you could feel in the end of that third quarter, right? The squeeze that they were putting on the Lakers. The Lakers were saying, crap, like we couldn't, it's like the Undertaker getting back up. Like, what do we got to do to kill these guys? And then, Jokic throws up one, tries to get fouled, doesn't get called. Aaron Gordon is able to kick that out to MPJ. Stone cold killer, like perfect form, steps into it, knocks it down. Game's tied. They trade a couple late buckets, and then Jamal does his thing. After, let's make sure that we see this. LeBron James, who I like LeBron James. I'm not here to crap on LeBron.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not here to crap on LeBron. Misses a wide open 3, and you and I have talked about this before. Like the worst shot for me when I play basketball is shooting a tech because there's no one there, right? There's just I need noise, something. And he gave us 2 wide open, right? Rims out, and then Jamal goes to work. I love what Harrison Wind of DNVR had put out. Jamal's been killing the Lakers for the last like 7 years with that move. And then there's clip after clip after clip after clip of hesitate, drive, a step back fade jumper from, 12 feet. And like Jamal said, I couldn't see anything after I elevated, the ball's up in the air. And maybe it was over Anthony Davis or something. I couldn't tell. And then I heard the crowd.
Right. It's amazing. The 2 things I want to touch on: Jokic, just doing Jokic things. There's been 2 8, 20, 20, 10 triple doubles in the playoffs in NBA history. He's got 4 of them, which is pretty crazy. And we're just talking about like risers in the playoffs, and Jokic and Murray are just risers in the playoffs. Yeah. Jokic is great regular season, enough to win an MVP, and then he takes it up another notch in the playoffs. Yeah. And Jamal, I think I heard that maybe I can't remember if he's the top.
Yep.
I think he's number 1 in differential
from regular season points per game. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like 7.5, which is crazy. I mean, like this is they live for these moments. You can see that they trust each other. It's that continuity. It's that coaching staff that they've been with for so long, and the trust that they put in each other. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, there's studies. People talk about like there's just some guys that that elevate their game in the postseason or in the clutch. Actually, what they looked at, or what has been looked at in research, is really just your ability to maintain. Right. So
right.
Being able to shoot when your blood pressure is higher because it's a more intense, more intense time. There's more on the line. And those are the people that look like they elevate their game because everyone else tightens up. Jamal Murray is actually the guy that plays better when it's crunch time, or when it's the playoffs. There's something on the line, and I don't know how I don't know how he does it. Obviously, you like Michael Mullen said at the end game presser, there really is that playoff Jamal. Like, that guy is uber confident. Talked about the story of him struggling way back when against New Orleans. Same kind of deal, hits the game winner. And I told him, in the second quarter, you're our future. Keep shooting, and having that coach, like that trust, coach 7 years ago. And that's just repeated after, all that stuff. Like, you see it, you feel it, and you believe it. As for the post game, the D'Angelo Russell went on Twitter saying, refs didn't make calls. Darvin Ham complained about calls. Anthony Davis complained about calls. LeBron complained about calls. In the end, what they're trying to do is put pressure on the refs to call the game in their favor. Next, it's gamesmanship, right?
They're loading the deck.
It's all those things. But does that excuse the Lakers of dropping, right, or losing a 20-point lead, right? If there were 5 minutes left or something, one team gets heavier in the whistles, which is just ironic that LA is the ones crying about this. But in general, right? You don't want that. You want things to be even, or at worst, let them play the game a little bit. That's not the reason why you coughed up a 20-point lead. So I just thought it was I think it's soft. In the end, it really is, and a cop out instead of the focus of just being being able to close out. Anthony Davis complaining all last week about not being a finalist for the Defensive Player of the Year award. Well, you got on Jamal's poster, which I've shared it a whole bunch in all my Instagrams.
Yeah, for sure.
Any way that I can get a look at that shot over outstretched AD is that's why you don't get that's why you're not getting the award, bro. Is you play big in shrink moments, but you shrink in big moments. So quick question to you, because I know we got to roll through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Is it and I know we believed that the Nuggets were going to go, right? We're going to take it. Do you believe it's over, right? LA realizes that was their chance. It's probably not likely to come back. The series, I mean.
Yeah. I think that the Nuggets haven't played their best ball, and LA probably played close to their peak yesterday, aside from maybe some coaching.
And the beginning of the first game. They came out strong. Yeah. They came out strong in game one. So it's not – they played probably as good as they will play.
Yeah. It's funny that they're maybe banking on some calls, getting some calls next game. Mm-hmm. They've got to find every little edge that they can, and I don't blame them for trying. I don't at all. I think, like you said, it's gamesmanship. This sort of stuff happens all the time in the league. And they probably have some real feelings about some missed calls, which is fine. I think that's part of the game. You got to live with some of those things. But I have a theory, and I want to bounce it off of you just really quick, and then we'll get on to the next topic. My theory is this isn't the theory, but after the All-Star break, we saw a change in how the game was being officiated. It's gotten a lot more physical. They're allowing a lot more contact. They're allowing players to be a little more aggressive on especially on the defensive side of the ball, with like I said, with contact and kind of pressing. You saw in the game before the Nuggets game with the Knicks and 76ers, a very similar outcome there with some questionable non-calls. I think this is what we're leaning towards. My theory is that this only bodes well. This change only bodes well for the Nuggets because Jokic never really got a good whistle ever. He was a superstar, most
underappreciated superstar I've ever seen. Sports, right? Usually those guys get elevated, they get calls. He has never. Let me reframe. I do not remember a time where it was obvious that he was getting the star whistle.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so my theory is that because of the change, it only helps us out. We're used to playing through contact and physicality and not getting those calls. And so it was a little out of character that Jokic tried to get that 3-point play. Not really. He's been trying to get it all year. but maybe not the best timing for that. If I've ever been critical of Nikola Jokic, which I don't think I have, this would be the time. Probably don't do that with so little time on the clock. That being said, your teammates bailed you out, and y'all made a push and won the game. So
yeah.
Let's talk a little redemption on just for the Avs really quick.
Phenomenal.
Georgiev. Yep.
Georgie.
He's bounced back. He said, I heard him say, I think in his press conference that, or his interview after the game, that he kind of changed up his routine, gave himself a little more energy. Didn't take as many shots during shoot around, just kind of approached things differently. And it showed, he put together a valiant effort. The Avalanche way outshot Winnipeg, especially through the first two periods, and came away with a 5-2 win. You won one on the road, which you needed to get, and as long as you hold home court or home ice, you should be able to take it the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's they've been the better team in the first two games, right? Obviously, I think some pretty less than stellar goaltending in the first outing robbed them of a win, and Georgiev just has to play like at a B level, right? It's you can't let the easy ones. So if you're pressing, if you're like, do a different routine, give yourself a little bit of credit, man. Like you're trying to if you keep us in the game, as in, if his teammates are probably encouraging, which he said they've been extra encouraging over the last couple of days, like we got you. If you keep us in the game, we'll do the rest. And he did what he needed to do. It wasn't spectacular. It was good. I think it was 933 save percentage. So 2 goals on 30 shots. He was good, especially considering they scored within the first few shots.
Yeah.
And I know all of us were super mad. So kudos to him for dodging like that. Like that could have been it, right? That's Garrett Bolts getting his first holding call, and then he gets 5 more in that game because he can't handle it. Right. Same kind of thing, I think. So that to me was that's really telling. If he can do that, solidify some of the mental fortitude. I think the Avalanche have a better than puncher's chance to advance in the series. And I was telling you, pre-pod that Winnipeg is a really good team. And if you get past Winnipeg, I think that's a good pelt for the wall to show like we can hang with anyone. It's not like you're playing, upstart Sisters of the Poor. That's like they squeaked in and you're like, oh, I got to hang. Right. That's why Seattle last year was so demoralizing, because it's like, we're the better team. Ideally on paper. Right. And so this one, I don't know that I would say that. I think that they're a very balanced, good defensive team with a fantastic goalie. And if you can continue to turn this tide, I think that hopefully would give the team confidence that if we get out of this round, I think we can win every round, which would be awesome. So, go Avs again. How phenomenal is it to be at ball right now in this kind of pretty magical time that we have with our MVPs, our fantastic team. So shout out to GG for deciding, I'm not gonna let it ruin us, and I'm not gonna be the reason why my team loses. And he did great. I was impressed, just even for him as a person. So should give him his flowers, because he's definitely got the rest of it.
There was a lot of hate spewed on social media towards him after that first game.
Yeah,
probably a little bit over the top. It's okay to be critical if a player doesn't show up, but when it gets a little personal, it gets a little out of hand.
Yeah, we take a little far, right? Like you can give people crap, but he doesn't come to your office when you don't get your TPS reports in time. So
right.
Maybe chill out a little bit.
Right. Last thing on that is I would just say that the Avs offense has been amazing. Hellebuck is, I think, was second in save percentage coming into the playoffs. He's an all-time franchise goaltender for that team, and one of the best goaltenders in the game. We're putting up 7 and 5 goals in 2 games, or 6 and 5 goals, 6 and 5 goals in 2 games. Offense is not an issue, so if we can shore up defensively and that goaltending a little bit, should be able to advance.
Yep. So. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
All right, we're gonna skip the Rockies today because
they won one game over this last week. So
they did.
My daughter did sing. If you were at the terribly cold game on Saturday
in Seattle.
Yeah, and he rocked out to the national anthem. My daughter was one of those like 60 kids, so you're welcome.
Good job.
That's all.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow is the NFL draft.
Isn't it like, I feel like Christmas, man.
I know.
It's what so many of us like enjoy, just the unpredictability, the hope that comes with getting new players, all that good stuff. And it's like, oh crap, like we've been talking about it for a while, and like we're gonna wake up and it's gonna be tomorrow, and it's gonna be here.
Yeah, it almost seems a little unreal. We've been talking about it for so long. Like, it's just like it's kind of snuck up on me a little bit, with playoff basketball and hockey going on. Not that it's fallen to the side much, because I love the draft process, but we've just been talking about the same names over and over and over for a while, and so it'll be a little bit of a relief to see where everyone shakes out and what direction the Broncos go. So let's just jump into it. I just want your gut reaction before we share any mocks. I'm gonna hope that I can access my mocks and still record at the same time. We'll see. But if you had to guess, just going into the draft tomorrow with what we know with the team so far, the moves they've made,
which we got to talk a little bit about. Let's maybe talk about those. Make sure we talk about those moves that we've seen the Broncos make over the last couple of days, since we haven't been on since those have happened.
That's true.
We'll make sure we explain how that impacts our view of the draft, so that we don't need like a segment for Zach Wilson, but just enough to be able to move the dialogue for sure.
Yeah. So just to ask this question, do you believe the Broncos are going to trade up, stay where they're at, or trade back in the draft this tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that they'll trade back. I don't think that there's enough ammo. There just isn't right now for them to want to be able to go up. I really like JJ McCarthy. I don't know that he is worth 3 first-round picks. I think if you're going to do that, you got to feel really good that not only is he a starting quarterback for you, but that he's going to be able to erase, different holes within your offense, because you can't pay everybody and you don't have draft capital. You gave it all away. So I don't see that happening. If the Patriots or the Cardinals, do something silly and draft someone, outside of the quarterback range up there, starts pushing a couple quarterbacks down, could they try to jump up to Atlanta's 8? They could, and I think, maybe the Falcons would be inclined to trade the quarterback or get the quarterback out of the conference, instead of trading with Minnesota or trading with New Orleans, etc. So I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I think now with the move that they made and bringing Zach Wilson on, right? So Zach Wilson was probably ranked or graded higher than everyone maybe outside of Caleb Williams coming out, right? And I think nuances and understanding. He's also going to be younger than Michael Penix and Bo Nix. So it's like you're getting a guy with 3 years of, again, bad habits learned from bad offensive coaching in New York. That said, his arm talent, we've talked, like his physical gifts are that's it, right? Like has he matured enough, which I've heard really good things about him in the locker room, which is really positive. So I think they make that move, as well as bringing on Levi Wallace, former Pittsburgh Steeler and Buffalo starter, to not have to reach for those 2 positions. Those were ones that when I would mock for the Broncos, those are the first two positions I'm going to continue to try and get, because really mid-round corners are like the hit percentage on that is pretty low. If you're trying to get a slot guy or a reserve, I think it's good to get someone that you can groom and maybe one day they'll take over. But if you really want high impact starters at those 2 positions, you get them in the first round. And so now there's some insurance because I think that the likelihood that they trade back is much higher because they just don't have as much as the other guys have to offer, unless, as the rumor has come out over the last several hours about, Pat Surtain being a real, piece to a puzzle. I don't think that he will get traded, but it makes 110% sense that you have a guy that's about to get paid at a very dependent position that's highly sought after. I would hate for Patrick Surtain to play anywhere else forever.
Yeah.
If Sean Payton moved Pat and the 12 to go to 4, because he got his guy, we'll figure it out. And so I think that there's a pretty good opportunity. But there are teams that I think want to move up. LA Rams, we've talked about them. We talked about them last time. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, so both in the early 20s. If you can grab one of those and a second-round pick, which is essentially what the Broncos got from Pittsburgh 2019 when they drafted Noah Fant. So they got their first, got their second. That gives you so much more flexibility to jump back in the end of the first round, take Michael Penix, take Bo Nix, and still get a really good player. So I think that that's what the Broncos will do. And I think it's what they should do, to be honest.
That's good.
Mortgaging the farm, I just don't see it. I would rather them kind of play it smart, keep the capital. If none of the options work that are on the team right now, essentially if Zach Wilson doesn't work, then you probably aren't very good. You're probably going to have a much higher draft pick next year. And you have all of your bevy of picks. And I think that that's the route that I would like them to go.
Yeah, it's hard the more you think about it to imagine them giving away next year's draft pick, even if they get who they want to get, just because even if you get the quarterback of the future, you're probably not going to play well. So that first round pick is going to turn into probably
look at Carolina.
Top 10 pick at the least.
I mean, look at Carolina, right? I mean, they thought, hey, we won't be up here again, so let's make this move. Nope, actually, you were up there again, and you probably could have had a much more generational prospect than 5'10" Bryce Young. But they know more than I do about what they'll do and all that good stuff. It really does depend on how things go. If they don't select quarterback, let me ask you something now. If they don't select a quarterback in the first round, move up or not, I'll let you kind of play it out. What position would you like them to address first? Based on value, need, however you see it. So if they were to select someone in the first round, per se, what would be the position group or focus you would want the Broncos to have?
Sure. I'm probably basing mine more on what prospects I think will be there. If they're gonna stand pat, I want them to take the best available player, which I think will be an offensive tackle. I would like to see them draft, any of those guys that are potentially going to be there for Wagga. Those guys there, just because I think at some point you're going to move on from Garrett Bowles. You need someone who's going to step in to that spot, even if it's not going to pay dividends necessarily this year. You have a good backup option, and you have someone that can fill in a need that is always going to be a need on any NFL team, is the tackle position.
Yeah.
Or I would like them to probably take a defensive tackle because I think you can get the top 1 or 2 on board.
I like that.
I really like Byron Murphy.
Yep.
He's probably someone that I would gravitate towards. I don't have anything against Johnny Newton, so if they took Newton, I'd be happy to. But if I had to pick one over the other, I'd probably lean Murphy just a little bit. That's probably where I'd like to see them target. Other positions I'd be okay with. I would honestly be okay with them taking a wide receiver if they like the value and they found someone that they probably more so if they traded back than if they picked at 12. But there's a lot of good receivers in this draft. I don't know that you need to reach necessarily. But again, if you think someone is a transcendent or is under-scouted and you think that you can get them for value, then you take them. I don't know. There's not a lot of positions I would be upset about.
Right, because they need so much. So that's one argument for me and them not moving up for a quarterback. There's just too many holes to fill right now.
Yeah.
And if they do it now and Zach Wilson doesn't pan out, then you are more prepared next year. Then you've at least solidified, especially corner, left tackle, edge rush, interior pass rush, offensive line, right? So I would be all for any of those five. My only trump card that I would say, if this player is on the board, it's player specific, not position specific.
Okay.
I think Brock Bowers. I am in love with his game. He's quarterback proof, essentially. So no matter who you have, he's a guy that's going to elevate your offense because he can just do so much stuff. So that would be one guy that I would get out of the positional value mold, because I think he is a next generation kind of guy. He's a little bit of like, positional value proof. So that would really work for me. I think that would be phenomenal. I would like it if the Broncos went tackle or receiver early. I think it's a good opportunity to see what you could get for Garrett Bowles or what you could get for Cortland Sutton. Both of them are on the last year of their deal. You need draft capital, have an opportunity to maybe build that interior pass rush, which I think needs to be a really big effort. You get guys that are able to crash the pocket. You make everyone else better. So it's the one when I run a mock simulator, I'm double dipping on D-line every single time.
Yep,
Give yourself some bodies. I'd rather have too many options there than not enough. Again, tradable assets, you get through camp, all that good stuff. So I agree with you with those position groups. Brock Bowers really is the only player in my mind that's like, hey, if that guy were on the board, you should go get him. And you should be super pumped that you did. A really good offensive tackle, Fashanu, Santanu, if either of those players are there because they're versatility I also wouldn't be mad if they traded back, last 6 picks, so like 25, 26, 27 to 32, and took the Oregon center, Graham Barton. Zach Frazier. I think having look at what Creed Humphrey has done for the Chiefs. And, if you thought you could get Creed Humphrey in the back end of round 1, to me, that anchors your line. You got real beef going across it. And I think that that's going to make any quarterback's life just so much better. For
sure. Let's talk. We both prepared some mocks. We prepared a mock that we would like to see happen. And then we prepared a mock that we think would be more likely than our dream scenario. How about that?
Yeah.
Do you want to start with one of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me grab the one that I sent you.
I'm gonna look right now and see if I can access these without going off.
Yeah, why don't you do that? So I'll just kind of go through my picks. Trading back, I think, is what the Broncos will do. So I have them trading back twice to get back to Baltimore's first round pick. Essentially get 2 day 2s in the process. So you get pick 41, which is don't care. I think that's Green Bay's pick. I think I moved back to Green Bay and then moved back. So take Brian Murphy in the first round, late first round at pick 31. Michael Penix Jr., early second. Him or Bo Nix, right? You're taking your dart throw. Brandon Dorless, who is a really big edge rusher that has position flexibility for the defensive line. So I got him at 72. Malachi Corley, the Yak God, also grabbing him in round 2. And then Devondre Sweat, the D tackle at Texas. Like I said, I double dipped. If you can get a guy that's like 360 and you get an interior pass rusher, right? You think of stop the run right here, get some interior pressure, best of both worlds. And then Cade Stover, tight end at Ohio State. I think he is I think there's 3 really good tight ends, maybe 4 with Josh Wiley. I think it's, Ben Stinnett and Brock Bowers and Cade Stover. And I think there's some other guys that might have some upside and can play, but I think those are plug and play guys. And then, closing it out with Hunter Norzad, center at Penn State, who I think has grown. I think he's progressed a bit. Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee. I think he'll probably go much higher than I was able to get him at 185. And then Elijah Jones, quarterback, Boston College. Good Raz guy, has some good tape. But again, it's just putting pressure on the lower ends of that, because you brought Levi Wallace to start. I think going mid-level corner, mid-round corner, when you have multiple mid-round corners right now with Riley Moss and Damari Mathis, there's no point in adding another one at that level. Either one that has really good physical tools that really needs to get coached up, or a guy that's a game changer, first round, can play right now. So I think they're going to do something like that. I kind of had a few mocks where that was the case. Trade back, get some, if you're able to trade back once or twice to add 2 additional day 2 selections, and then maybe sprinkling of some day 3. That one allows you then to be aggressive to move back up, multiple second round picks, which this team desperately needs. And I think that that's where the draft is the fattest, is it's kind of the 30 to 100. I think those are where the really good players are, maybe like 120, and then drastic off the cliff. I think that there's guys that are just Jags kind of after that. So that's kind of what I would like, or what I think that they would do. What I would like them to do is be really aggressive in trading Cortland Sutton and Garrett Bowles for draft capital. And I think then taking a swing on a tackle round 1 would be phenomenal. And then addressing the interior line early, whether it's Cedric Van Pram, maybe like in the 3rd round, center out of Georgia, or any of the earlier guys that we had stated. I think there's some really good ones. I think it was Tanner Botano, or I don't know. Bartoli, yeah. Wisconsin center. I just think there's some pretty good ones, and getting a guy, if you get a guy anywhere between, the 2nd round and the 4th round, he can come in and compete as a starter, which I would like. If they don't go center, it kind of makes sense. They drafted one each of the last 2 years. And then with Mustafa in, I think that eliminates the need for that. Either you need to get a really high-end center or leave it alone, because those guys are all kind of at the same level. So I would love for them to be really aggressive in trading back to gain day 2 picks to use to get top-end talent. So, try and get as many you can between pick 25 and 40. There's a sweet spot, some really good contributors. Be able to walk away with like 3 of those selections. I think you have 3 day 1 instant starters, which for a team like this could use it. And I think if you have that, you never know if the quarterback is somewhat average. We saw that Sean Payton can create some pretty successful game plans, and you might shock some people. So what I think they'll do is I think that they'll trade back. I don't think they're going to trade Garrett or Court. Court's probably the most likely. I don't think that they will. Hope for his sake that they do. He deserves to go ball out. But with how many receivers are in this draft and can play, one, I don't think there's a contract out there for him right now, and I just don't think the Broncos are that motivated to move him. They probably want to keep that room as strong as they can. So that's what I think, and that's what I would like them to do. What about you?
Yeah, I think the Cortland thing is interesting. I could see a scenario where he gets traded. It's funny because T. Higgins just reported, or just requested to be traded.
Mm-hmm.
Big physical receiver. Yeah. Big physical receiver, but is going to be expensive. Cortland's maybe a budget version of that in comparison. Yep. So maybe someone's tempted to say, hey, there's a guy like T. Higgins out there, but we're gonna have to pay a lot for him if we want to bring him over. Maybe we just go with the cheaper. And honestly, he's proven his worth in Denver on a bad team. Especially last season with a pretty subpar team around him. So I could see a scenario where you're not going to get a ton for him, but where someone says, well, let's take a chance on a guy like Cortland as opposed to Higgins, who's not healthy and is really expensive. That being said, again, it's going to depend on who's available. So the mock that I did, can you hear me when I do this?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So the mock, this is the other one. The mock that I did, I stood pat. And I did that just because I don't know. I think if you can get like a top 1 or 2 guy at a position, then I would rather have that than, the 4th or 5th guy down the road, and so it just depends on the position. But Bowers was there. So I took Bowers. I didn't trade back. I wanted to trade back. But I can see a scenario where if he lands there, if he doesn't get taken by the Jets or someone like that, then he's possibly a transcendent.
Yep.
Receiving.
I feel like someone has said that before.
Yeah, I wonder who that was. I don't know. We'll have to.
Really, like, what would make you have to really quick? Because I don't want to. I want you to do the rest of it. So if you're at 12, Bowers on the board, what would it take for you to move out of that pick? Like whose package? Could it be Philly with their late or their early 20s, 2 second-round picks to move? Like, what would be enough to be like, right, like I'll take that.
I don't know. I would be more of a fan if I could get a second and then some draft capital next year. But I would probably, depending on how far you move back, you may have to get a first. Like if you're dropping back to, mid-20s, then I would hope you could get this year's second, next year's first, something like that. And I would do that just because there's a lot of holes that need to be filled, and I think you're still getting some really high talent draft picks.
Yeah.
And you're getting more opportunity to fill those holes this year and build some continuity.
Like it.
But I think Bowers, if you have a chance to get one of the best pass catchers in the draft in a position that really you haven't had much success from or consistency from in, I don't know, maybe a decade.
It's Julius Thomas, really. Yep.
Yeah. I think you've got to sniff that. I think you've got to be interested by that. It's something that the Broncos have seen used well around them in this division. Obviously, Kelsey is the biggest example of that, and someone that you can build around from that position. I think Bowers has, I don't know about that sort of potential. That's, you're talking about one of the greatest, as much as I hate to say that. But, he's got high-end playmaker potential if you can give him the rock. Plus, you can utilize the middle of the field, which the Broncos haven't done in a long time, which would be nice to see.
It would be. It's weird. Yeah, use the whole 53, yards of width.
Yeah. After that, hold on. I'm gonna switch it real quick. I'll be real fast.
Yeah. Oh, snap.
Aha! I'm back.
Nice.
It just is a little tricky in navigating this. I took Spencer Rattler at 76. Okay. I don't know if he'll be there realistically. I don't know. He's a player that I'm a little bit torn on. I like some of his skills. I don't know if he's a starting caliber guy, but I think that his physical attributes are intriguing to me. Mm-hmm. He seems like he's grown up a little bit. I know you always talk about the cute quarterback you or whatever the show he was on that really kind of left a bad taste in your mouth with them. I would hope that he's taken some hits in his college career. He's kind of been humbled a little bit. I'm hoping that maybe he's got a little bit of that humble pie, and I would be willing to take a chance on him. And it makes sense still with the Wilson move. Oh, that's confusing. The Zach Wilson move. I should be more specific.
Hey, no.
But and then you just say, all right, we're just gonna let you guys battle it out and see what happens. You don't necessarily a third-round quarterback. You're not necessarily beholden to. He might be someone that you give a little bit of run at some point. But if you get a top 5 pick next year, then it doesn't make you. You don't have to shy away from picking a quarterback.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get a Shedeur Sanders or someone like that might be available. Just saying. Not there. After that, I had at 121, I had them taking Andrew Phillips, quarterback out of Kentucky. Probably not as big a need now, but still, it's a high profile position. Mm-hmm. Everyone needs it. There's a good value there, and I think Phillips is a little bit underrated. I like his physical attributes, and I've kind of it's funny. I don't always in the draft process lean towards high physical upside guys. I kind of like more of a predictable ascension, even if it means a lower ceiling. That's just me personally, but I've tended in this draft when I've been doing mocks to lean towards guys with high RAS scores, guys that are kind of boom or bust potential guys. And I think that, I'd be willing to take a chance on more of those guys. Then I had at 136, I had them taking Layden Robinson, guard out of A&M. 145, I had them taking, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Dylan Lobby, the New Hampshire running back.
Oh, yep.
I think he can be serviceable in this league, and I think you can put him in a rotation, and he'll be just fine. He'll give you a little bit of change from what we have. And he's just it would be good to have a backup for Javonte.
Yeah.
Then Jordan Jefferson at 147, defensive tackle at LSU, another high Raz guy. And then at 203, Cornelius Johnson, wide receiver, Michigan, and 207, Aeneas Smith, wide receiver, out of Texas A&M. Just two hardworking, kind of high floor guys for a late round pick. I think what you're getting. It's just a matter of whether they can elevate physically to the next level. They both have a lot of growth. They're not necessarily your biggest, most physical guys, so they're going to have to put in the dirty work. But they have good reputations for being able to do that. So that's kind of where I landed with that. As far as I would want to trade back, and I'm going to quickly go to my other one now. All right, I'm back.
And I'm back.
It's just like this is annoying. So this is what I thought more of what maybe we would see from the Broncos. I had them trade back to 31 for Bo Nix.
Okay.
I'm not a Bo Nix lover. I will go on the record and just say Bo Nix is not my favorite pick for this team. It's nothing against him personally. I just like other quarterback prospects more. I don't think he's a first-round talent. Okay. However, I could see a scenario where, if you have an opportunity to move up to the end of the first round, he's the best talent available. Sean Payton likes him enough to want to develop him. Then I could see them certainly making that move. So, again, not picking necessarily with my heart there, but that allowed them to get a second-round pick.
Okay.
Which I had them
like where your head's at. Like where your head's at.
Yep. Which allowed them to pick Cameron Kinchins, safety out of Miami.
Do not like where your head's at.
I know. He's not a high RAS score guy. He's a guy that's more. I don't know. I just really love his tape.
Yeah.
I kind of fell in love just kind of watching him play a little bit. He plays 100%. He gives 100% all that to guys. High motor. May not be your most physically gifted guy. I think he's a high character guy. I think he's a guy that will galvanize other players. I would be willing to take a risk on him in the second round. I don't know that a lot of teams will, but he's a guy that I've kind of been on for a while. Okay. Then at 63, I had them take. Oh, I must have traded back up a little bit to get Brandon Dorless, edge out of Oregon. Yeah. Just a position of need. I think he was the best guy there at that position. A guy that's got some upside, some nice physical traits. Not necessarily sold that he's going to be, a stud week in and week out, but a guy that you can certainly put into the rotation.
Yeah.
Then at 136, Javon Foster, offensive tackle out of Missouri.
I really like Javon Foster. I think
I do too.
I think he's like Deion Dawkins, kind of like a pretty good athlete. He's played some of the best talent and done pretty well. So I like that. I like that pick.
Yeah,
I would really like them to take a tackle at some point, even just developmental. I think that would be a good move.
Yeah, for sure. Then I had them take Bucky Irving at 145. I don't know. He may not be there. We'll see.
What do you like about Bucky Irving? Because there are a lot of fans, especially guys that have covered the Pac-12 because of CU, that really like Bucky Irving. Testing wise inside, it's not ideal. So production on the tape is much better, obviously, than what you get in workouts. So what is it about him that you like?
Yeah, I think it's more of for me, it felt like more of an insurance pick for Javonte. He kind of fills a same role, physical guy, downhill runner, not necessarily gonna burst away and run away from defenses, but if you need to convert, you can get him to do that. I don't see him as being a 3-down back in the league.
Okay.
I just think he's limited physically that way. But I think, I don't know that they have a good 1-for-1. If Javonte was to go down, that you'd feel good about putting in there and
Right.
being able to pick up short yardage situations. So for me, it was less about upside and more about kind of filling a role. If Javonte gets hurt again, or if he's not 100%, and we need to get him someone to spell him a little bit,
I like that.
I would be okay with that selection. Then I went at 147, Jared Wiley out of TCU. Just a big receiving option.
I love him. Yeah, 6'7". You watch CU play TCU to start the season. That guy was all over the place. He is every bit that size. Started at Texas, went to TCU. So I would love that if they mid-round pick. I like that selection.
Yeah, it might be slightly redundant. I think that I don't know that he's going to be out there on passing routes all the time. He's a serviceable blocker. I think that he can fill in. I don't know that he would get the nod over, a veteran guy like Troutman or whatever, but he could step in and certainly be the second best tight end on this roster if Dulcich is healthy.
I think he gives you some pass catching threat. While you don't know when Dulcich gets on the field, if he gets on the field, they're not running power to Dulcich's side, right? I think Wiley at least, or some of the guys that could be around that area. Theo Johnson from Penn State, those guys at least, will lock up. They're willing to get better. And I think, that's what I want, a guy with some receiving upside and willingness to block. And I think if you get those at the tight end position, you can make it work. Look at George Kittle. George Kittle was a terrible blocker at Iowa. Terrible. I think his rookie year too, he wasn't that good. Commitment, and want to will get you a pretty long way. So I really like that pick. And I think he would be a really good one. If they miss early on like a guy like Bowers, I think taking someone like that, mid-draft would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I like some of the mid-round tight ends. I'm not in love with any of them. Obviously Bowers is the cream of the crop. But, if you were to get a guy like a Wiley late in the draft, like 4th or 5th round, I'd certainly be fine with that.
Yeah.
And then I think just 2 picks after that, I'd pick a cornerback out of Mississippi State, Cameron Richardson, and Anthony Gold, wide receiver out of Oregon State. And ended up with somehow, I'm not exactly sure what I did because I did this a while ago, but I got a 2025 Rams second round pick and a 2025 San Francisco 49ers second round pick. So I'm guessing what happened is I traded back with the Rams and I traded back again with the Niners. Probably not the most realistic, but like I said, this is what I would like to see happen, or this is what I'd like to see happen.
I
as
think,
far as trading back goes.
I think it could happen. I think, with the tackles run, right? Like, I think that there's a wave, maybe it's kind of the end for the receivers run. If you want to get one of the, the top, if you want Brian Thomas or something like that after a trade back, I don't think it's I don't think it's outlandish for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think you trade. I would like to see him trade back and accumulate picks. That's what I would do. But I think Sean Payton has a reputation for being aggressive in the draft and getting guys that he likes, and so it makes me a little bit hesitant to hedge my bet as far as thinking that's what the Broncos will do.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that this ownership group hasn't looked at the other town or the other successful sports franchises in this town and said, hey, maybe continuity is a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to build up a core before we, start building out this roster completely and spending more money. Obviously there's we're a bit handicapped when it comes to money because of the Russell Wilson trade and salary. But they've done a good job recouping that. It's something that we probably won't feel too much next year, especially with some of the other individuals that we've had to kind of let go to kind of recoup that. But yeah, I mean, I just think you build that core, you take the guys that you have. I would actually be pretty upset if they traded Surtain. I think that he needs to be a part of this young core. I think to get rid of him, to pick up someone who maybe not as good, or you're just taking a risk on, it's like a proven commodity for what, maybe someone that's good, but chances of them surpassing his play already is super low. So I would not be in favor of them dealing Surtain. However, I guess we're just gonna have to tune in tomorrow and see.
Yeah, not a favor of. Do I think that you could trade it, use some of those assets to get you a serviceable corner? Sure, but we also don't have the pass rush for it. So
right,
it's kind of right now, like, let's not cut off our nose to spite our face. Let's just keep adding pieces. Let's not give any away.
Yeah. I don't know. Your defense it gets a lot worse if McMillan's your CB1 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, 100%. It's Riley Moss, Tamari Mathis, and Jaquan. Like, it's not exactly screaming confident unit for sure. And I think there are a couple. If they get an interior pass rusher and another corner to kind of continue to build out the depth, I think that they have the makings of a pretty damn good defense. I think if you want to win, take pressure off a young quarterback, whoever that might be, making sure you don't forget that side of the ball would be a pretty good play, in my opinion.
Yeah. The only other question I wanted to ask you is there anyone besides Bowers that you wouldn't, if they were available, say the top 4 quarterbacks are gone. So JJ, Caleb, all those four guys are gone. Bowers is gone. Is there anyone at that 12 spot that you would not consider trading back if they were available?
Oh man. Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. I think maybe Roma Odunze, maybe. I really love the other two. I really love Neighbors. I think.
Yeah.
Also more likely maybe
your wide receiver one.
No, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is, but I think for what the Broncos need, it's Neighbors. They need explosion.
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, either one of those three, I would definitely think about what kind of deal. It would have to take a really, really good one, because there's a pretty good drop off after those guys. There's some good players. But I think all of those guys ish are like QB proof. You get a guy that can come in and, be Jamar Chase year one or Justin Jefferson. I mean, this team it's been starving for that level of play from that position. And I think if you can get guys like that, then you get a real good evaluation of Zach Wilson, for example, right? It's like, you got Malik Neighbors, you got Cortland Sutton, you got Tim Patrick in the big slot, you got Marvin Mims, and then you got, a solid day 3 tight end to add to that group, or a center, to solidify up front. And then you're cooking, in my opinion, a little bit, right? So I think if they can get some explosion on the outside, get a good playmaker, I think that offense has a chance to look pretty good and on paper.
Yeah.
But that to me would be it. I don't think that there's a defensive player in this draft that I think is to be honest, I don't know if I would take any of them at 12. And Joe Alt. Yeah, I think if Joe Alt fell, I'd jump on that. And I think they should be prepared for that. I think if one of those really good left tackles falls, I'm looking to trade, get people on the hook for Garrett Bowles, Stat and Pronto. And because I think not even bringing someone in and having them sit, why? Let's just, bundle Garrett Bowles and our 4th to go get a high 3rd or something higher, something to be able to make way for that spot. You're able to utilize Garrett Bowles as an asset and move forward.
Yeah. I don't know that there's anyone that would keep me there either. I would maybe consider it if one of the top 2 edge guys was there, just because it's a position of need. And I think, if you're getting one of the top 2 guys in the draft, I think that probably bodes well for you. Again, another position, a high value position.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I value the pick so much, and we've talked about this before. I would trade back all the time if I could. Just because I like having all of the draft capital that I can. But I don't know that there's anyone that I would really consider not trading back for, assuming that those kind of top 10 consensus guys are off the board.
Yep. Yeah. I think they are in a position to get a really, really good player at 12 if they want. And I think that there are teams that want to move up, and that's a good place to be at least. So it's like, if you can't be in the top 4 to get a QB for a team that needs more draft capital, having the option of taking someone that fell that had no business falling, right? Like Laramie Tunsil or something like that happens.
Right.
Like, oh, dear goodness. That's awesome. And if not, maybe it's in a position you don't want to draft left tackle, you're ready to extend bowls. I think there are teams that will jump up and get desperate and give you a pretty good package.
Yep. The Broncos have some flexibility. I think that's exciting. It should be exciting for Broncos fans.
Whoever would have thought Zach Wilson would have brought kind of a stabilizing sense to the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, you could go from one Wilson to the next, and it feels a little bit different.
It does.
Well, we're going to wrap today. We are out of time. We will be at The Rock with the Let's Talk Broncos crew, kind of watching them do their thing tomorrow during draft time. So I would encourage you to come support them more so than us, because we're just going to be there as fans of them and the draft. All right, you can support us too.
Come support us. Also, we'll be doing a little bit of a draft game. So bring a couple bucks to do some betting on who's getting picked. I'll send out some of those details later. But The Rock in Aurora tomorrow, like 5:30-ish. Come in, say hi, and then also listen to the other podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate your time. We are excited for all of the upcoming. Sorry, my kid's school just called me. For all of the upcoming Colorado sports stuff. The pro playoffs are still in full gear. That we'll be kind of locking into that as the Broncos and the Nuggets and Avs advance. And we'll be talking about the direction of the Broncos moving forward, and hope that the Rockies can get their stuff together.
Yeah, we're gonna have a fun next couple of weeks. I think really getting deep in the playoff run and getting a good sense of what the Denver Broncos will look like in 2024.
I really need at least the Nuggets or Avalanche to make it to the finals, because I don't know how long I can talk about the Broncos and Rockies in the offseason.
It's going to be tough for sure.
And so I'm really going to let's hang our hats on at least getting to the finals, if not winning anything.
Yeah.
For both teams.
Yeah. No pressure, guys.
No pressure. All right. Well, we're out for today. We appreciate your time. Hit us up on social media. We're happy to talk ball anytime. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.
For sure. Oh, see ya.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute,